You're watching The Tesla Life without your host, Mark Coughlin. Inmate from the asylum today.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone out there. As Patrick told us, we are running without Mark today. Something happened, he just left us in the car, and the keys were in the ignition, and we started punching buttons and shit, and then there was a mess.
It's in camp mode, or at least dog mode.
Oh no, I was going old school with the car. Yeah. So there's an interesting story with that. My mom had an old Firebird that she it was brown with the chicken on the hood. That was Firebird, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
the flaming chicken. Yep.
Yeah. So she upgraded the engine, and she turned it off, put the park brake on, windows were down. She was just going in for a second to pick something up from her parents' house, and keys were in the ignition. I don't know how old I was, but I wasn't in school yet. I released the park brake and rolled back into the street. And
oh no!
Yeah, so she went in for a second, didn't get what she was going for, and came out to all the neighbors honking their horn at me, blocking all of the street. And it could have been so bad.
Oh yeah. Oh, so stealing that supercharged spot was not the first of your vehicular shenanigans.
Not even close. Yeah. So for episode 253, Mark is out elsewhere, and he wasn't objecting to us going ahead and running stuff, so that's what we've done, and we went with dealer's choice. So we're gonna start out with Patrick. He's got some stories, and then I've got some stories, and we're gonna get into some discussion, and then of course anybody who's in the chat, Hockey Day is always there, and anybody else who's in there, chat it up, because we've actually left a space for audience interaction. So
right.
Tell us how your week's been going, Patrick.
Oh, my week's been going good. It's nice and sunny here. Lots of solar coming in. It's nice to be banking those extra kilowatt hours that I'll need in January, because our solar year goes from April 1st around as far as banking with the utility goes, which is a good. Cool. They start it in the spring. That's the way it should be.
That's the way it ought to be.
Yeah.
Unlike mine, starting in January.
Yeah, that's not good.
Not at all.
I didn't realize net metering had different. I thought, if you have net metering, you have net metering, and they're the same everywhere, but they're not. There's lots of little nuances, whether you're on time of use or not, what time of year it starts, how much can you bank, what happens to the rollover. There's lots and lots of subtleties with that.
Exactly.
What about you? How's your week?
And it's been busy. Work had some projects going on. Baby's decided that she doesn't want to unless somebody's holding her, and so that's fun. Yeah.
All right. You want to jump into a story?
Yeah, let's start with you. You had one that you picked out before we decided that Mark wasn't going to be here.
Right. So this is one. The topic actually came up on the show. I was looking at, we talked about how Tesla's biggest advantage was that they didn't have to have a competitor like Tesla. And so I was trying to quantify that. And as part of that bigger article, I started looking at the Model S. And it just so happens that this year, the Model S turns 10. The original came out in 2012. And so I thought that would be a good comparison of the Model S then versus the Model S now. I wanted to do the Roadster because that was their original vehicle, but there is really no Roadster now yet. There's only, on paper. So I didn't think that would be a fair comparison. Yeah. It's
a little late.
Nice. Yes. If that, when it comes out, that'll be a great, where they were when that first came out to where they are when the new version, that'll be a huge delta. But the nice thing about the Model S is it's been the same vehicle and it's just been an evolution of it. And Tesla's pace of innovation has been incredible. And the other thing, it's an aluminum body car, and 10-year anniversary is the aluminum anniversary. So that was just the perfect time to do this. And so I don't know if you can share it or not, but yeah. I made a little table that shows the original version, and they've had various performance versions, the insane version, the ludicrous version, and they had the Founders Edition with the original one. To get rid of as much of that from the special variants that I could, I just went with the long range version of the original 2012 and the long range version of the current year. The difference is the original long range was rear wheel drive, whereas the current one's dual motor. So, oh yeah, there you've got the table up right there. I can look on the screen now. And so just first off the top is the price. It's actually $15,000 cheaper, and you get an extra motor.
In straight dollars, you get the inflation, yeah.
Yes, and then if you inflation adjust it, and I just plunked the original 115 into the Bureau of Labor Statistics inflation calculator, and that's what spit out. Of course, ending in 69 because that it has to. I didn't. That was not just me throwing an Easter egg in there. That's really the number that came out. The range, you get more than 100 miles additional range. The 0 to 60 time is more than a second faster, quicker. The original one did not have any sort of autopilot. They didn't add that until 2014. So now autopilot is standard, and you can, of course, upgrade it with FSD beta. And even with the upgrade to FSD, it's still cheaper than the original 115, let alone the inflation-adjusted 144. The supercharger time is faster.
Actually, and you were generous on the first gen, because that started at 90, and even before that, it didn't exist. It just happened to be in there.
Right. Yes. Yeah. I was thinking about what should I put in a practical 120 or 90 kilowatts, 90. And I decided to err on the side of giving it the benefit of the doubt, because even with that, it's still an impressive improvement.
Yeah.
And I thought if I put in those lower numbers, that then someone's just going to say, well, no, actually, it was this higher number, and then they discredit, start questioning the credibility of the whole point that I was trying to make. So that was it. That was I thought, how is someone else going to compete with Tesla? It's going to be very difficult. They don't get if the 2012 version of the car came out today, it would not be an award-winning, groundbreaking vehicle, and it was when it came out, and that gave Tesla runway to make a lot of mistakes. And so there you go. That was what I wanted to share, and especially thought it was cool because it came up in this show.
It did,
like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, that's another good thing to look at. Is like, we keep saying, get the one that you want as it becomes available, because who knows what's going to happen. There are some things that people liked about those original cars that you can't get today. And then, of course, if you're always waiting for the newest, best one, the way that Tesla does their rollouts, you're always going to be waiting. You'll never have a car. So if you took the time and just said, all right, this is the one I'm going to get, this is the next one I'm going to get, and you digital freeze frame snapshots there, look at how much it can improve in between your two cars. Assuming that you don't keep your car for 10 years. Some people do, but most people, it's closer to 3 to 6 years.
Yeah, I'm shooting for 9 with my Model X. So I got it in 2016, and I'm planning getting a 2025. So nice. I don't have all the latest and greatest, but I also don't have a car payment. So that's kind of nice. Which is how I can save up to buy another one in 2025.
There you go. Yeah, mine's almost done.
Yeah, unless you're a multimillionaire, I don't think you should be getting a new car every 3 years.
Unless you're leasing.
Well, no, even leasing, then you're still paying every month all the time, and you never. Yes, but the math, they're not going to. You're not.
No, the banks do the math. Yeah. But to get a new lease every 3 years is a lot more fiscally responsible than getting a brand new purchase and then trade in or private sale and then do it all over again. These last 2 years have really messed with the way the used cars go. If you're somebody who can't keep a car for that long, you got to figure out what your actual car budget is, and then from there. That is your way to get into a new car all the time, if you can do the miles and if you don't customize the car. If you do either of those things, then you don't need to be getting a new car every 3 years regardless.
Yeah, it's buying a car and using it for 10 years is the best math-wise, or using it till the wheels fall off. And with an electric vehicle, they're pretty dependable, so that I could make this probably the last car I ever own if I really, really wanted to.
Certainly, and as we're going to get into with another story, you can actually expect that battery is going to outlast the car.
Yes.
Speaking of which, you just froze for a second. I got my Starlink out back, but it's not plumbed into the network yet. I got to run an Ethernet from the back door to the front door.
Cool. You will
Yeah.
be on Starlink next time on the show.
At least for part of it, because we've got trees everywhere, so it doesn't like it.
Uh-oh. Got to find a clear view of the sky.
Well, when I ordered it, I had a clear view of the sky, and then I moved. And
do you have to tell them you've moved to have it set up for a different zone?
Yes. But this one, when they finally were ready, my name came up. They're like, "Oh, hey, where do you live now?" And then they set it off.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. So yeah, it came with the right address the first time for you. Cool.
Yeah. So 10 years of Model S. My goodness. I remember the first time I saw one was in a mall, and that was a complete paradigm shift in itself. Like, you could see cars in the mall all over the place even before that, but they were usually static demos, locked up. Nobody was there. There was a little business card for what salesperson to call. Here was a whole store. Like, they had three cars jammed in there. People were willing to show you around, and they let you just go on a test drive this $100,000 car with nothing but a driver's license. And
yeah, I think it was the beta version of the vehicle, and they were showing it off at museums around the country.
Yeah.
And here in Portland, it was at the Museum of Mobility, which sounds like it might be where cars are frequently. No, it was like mobile sculptures.
Oh, wow.
And it was right in the middle, and there were all these various things that would tip and bob and weave around it, and
like
it was really cool.
And stuff.
Yeah. And I remember the self-presenting doors.
Yes.
When the Tesla rep was there, and I was like, that is really cool, but somebody's going to get their fingers pinched in there. There's no way. This is just, 'cause I was used to the way cars used to be, and that you see these awesome concept cars, and then almost none of that makes it to production. And I was like, oh, okay. At first, I was intrigued because they were calling it the beta, and I was like, that's a software term,
right?
That's not
Nobody
what car
calls
companies
beta.
do. So yeah, exactly. It took me. That was like the first light bulb moment that Tesla's not like other car companies.
Right.
They're a technology company that happens to make cars, not a car company dabbling in technology.
Exactly.
And that's some radically different mindset.
Yeah. My first intro to them was with the Roadster. When it came out, like, you saw Elon zooming around in the T0. The T0 was something I was really, really impressed with. And then the Roadster came out, and I saw the price, and that was nowhere near achievable for me at the time. So I just kind of put them away. And then the Model S popped on the scene in that mall. And I was like, oh, this is that same company. They made the Roadster was actually in a couple of TV programs I watched at the time, and that was impressive. And then my wife bought a blanket, which is no longer available for sale. So yeah, even with the Tesla merch, if you see something you like, grab it before it sells out for good. And so then we saw the beta, just like Patrick did, and then later on, what came up for me was when they said the alphas of the Model X. I'm like, alphas? I thought the betas was just them tongue in cheek. They're serious about this, aren't they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I saw it first. Saw the Roadster first at an auto show. It had just completed a cross country drive on the Level 2 network because there were no superchargers back then.
Right.
It was dirty, and it had like the map wrapped onto where they drove, and we were there with the Leaf and the Volt, and then there was this. I was like, oh, it's not in the same class as these two cars by any means, but it was unobtainium as well. So that was
right.
Awesome to see that that they had the secret master plan, and they were going through, because the Model S was still out of range, but it was something that I could grasp, and I did by 2016. And as Patrick mentioned, the self-presenting door handles were phenomenal until I had to go through 6 of them.
Yeah, they originally Tesla couldn't get they said the A player suppliers weren't interested in dealing with them, and so they would get like the C team from the C supplier, and so they had a lot of problems with quality of things like door handles and other things. And that's kind of exactly the point, is that they had these early adopters back then who were like, "Hey, I'd love this car." And Tesla's vehicles were an outlier in many ways. If your other competition at that time was the Leaf, it doesn't have anywhere near the range. It doesn't have anywhere near the tech, and of course, it doesn't have anywhere near the price. But I mean, if you're in a income bracket where you just don't care about that, you care about the other things more. That's what you were buying a Tesla then, and so that means that you're willing to tolerate. Okay, it's got some glitches. It's in fact you might love it more because it has those things. That makes you part of this.
It's quirky.
Yeah, it's you're in a club that not everybody can join because not
Right.
everybody understands these things or can deal with these things. I think that's part of the on the early adoption curve on the far earliest people they call innovators, and that's I think what makes those people want to do that stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of like some of the luxury cars and some of the supercars. Like just like you said, they've got their own quirks, and people get into
Hmm.
clubs and talk about them. It's not quite the same as like a Corvette club where everybody's got their New Balances and khakis. It's kind of like that today, but it was more like those other low volume vehicles back in the day. And Hockey Day is asking
Definitely,
what was the backlog back like then, and it was still substantial. I mean,
it
it was
was.
from Roadster days. It never got smaller.
Yeah, well, we had Chelsea Sexton on the What Drives Us show, and she was talking about Tesla's backlog on the Model S, and she said something how you can buy your way to the front of the line, and I was like,
Yes.
what are you talking about? That didn't make sense to me. And
No.
then and I was like, you mean you can pay extra to cut? And she was like, no, you buy the more expensive vehicle that makes them more profit. They're more motivated to make those. So if you're waiting for the 40 kilowatt hour pack, which never came, it was a they dropped it
Oh,
completely by doing the 60 with the software limitation, which if you were getting one of those, that's great. But I'm off. I've already jumped on another tangent on this tangent. So that was how you could get it earlier was by the same kind of things you can do today. If you upgrade your wheels and you pull in full self driving and other things, you're likely to get your car earlier.
yep. So I was getting in line for the Model S40. I had one more paycheck to go before I could do the order fee, and the order fee was not $100, not $300, not $500. You had to drop $5,000 right there on the spot, and then shortly after
Yep.
they wanted the rest of their money before they even built your car. And so I had everything lined up for Model S40 because it had less range and it was cheaper, and so it was like a Wednesday or Tuesday, and Elon's like, "It's canceled. Nobody's ordering it. Nobody likes it. It's done." And I was like, "My paycheck was due on Friday." No,
No. I
I-
like it. I want to
right?
order.
Exactly. Had I known, I would have tried to get my hands on an order advisor and be like, "Hey, hook me up," and it might have happened, but oh well. Uh,
You
uh,
still got there. You still got to join
I
the
got
club
there
eventually.
exactly. And then Hockey Day was saying that yeah, our Leafs and Volts versus the real deal, our compliance cars. JT says hello, and yeah, there we
I
go.
don't. There were a lot of compliance cars. I would not call the Leaf or the Volt a compliance car.
No, they
They,
were they were like
they
crossing that threshold. They weren't compliance.
yes, right, yeah. And that was nice because it was nationwide and it wasn't just a few thousand or whatever they needed to get some carb credits. And yeah, we've seen lots and lots of examples of that. I missed out on the tequila. They had a new
They did,
tequila on 420. They released 420 bottles, and they had these really cool little shot glasses. I didn't get that with my tequila. I want to just get those shot glasses because
right?
I still have the tequila bottle. You can see it right there.
There you
Uh,
go. So
but
the
the
shot
lightning,
glasses can't stand on their own, just like the bottle can't.
right? Yeah, they have to go in the little stand. Just yeah. Did any of you watching get
Yeah,
tequila either originally or the latest round? Yeah, did you, Casey?
I got in originally, and I tried to get back in, and that didn't work out so well. I sold my bottle and bought my air conditioner repair.
Wow, well, hey, that's not cheap. So you must have made a little couple
Yeah,
extra coins.
I did. I did. It was
Nice.
nice. Yeah. So what was the next one we were gonna do? So
Your choice.
Hockey Day actually brought up one of your next ones, so I'm gonna pop you next
Okay.
on the orderers. Elon mentioned something at an interview he was on.
Yeah, he was on FT Live, the future of transportation, I think it was called, and JB Straubel was on there, and then they had like a 15-minute overlap between JB and Elon, and then Elon was interviewed, and one of the things that he said in there was that Tesla warned. So this is the Drive Tesla Canada has an article about this, and it's titled "Elon warns that Tesla may stop taking orders for some vehicles due to ridiculous demand." So they have like a 12-month backlog on some of their more popular vehicles right now. And they've been raising prices, and yet they still have this backlog. And to predict out more than a year on what the commodity pricing is going to be, um, whatever, who knows what force majeure could occur. We've only had wars and hurricanes and pandemics.
Plague.
You know, yeah, exactly. So the cone of uncertainty past a year is really difficult, and so to make a I will give it to you at this price 15 months from now commitment is ridiculous. They're either going to have to overcharge, which has some bad optics, or they're going to be wrong and undercharge, which is bad for their profitability as a business that wants to keep the doors open. So I think this is smart. What I would like to see, I mean, this is just an off the cuff. This was not like oh, here's a formal announcement from Tesla. This is the plan.
Right.
It was, he was asking about, the interviewer was asking if some of the distractions that Twitter could cause might cause a backlash against Tesla. To which he said, no, we're going to sell every car we can make. In fact, we have this huge backlog. It's ridiculous. And we might have to stop taking orders. So it was
the only way I see that actually having any effect on the cars is if they announced that every Model S and Model 3 that rolled off the line, they would cut down however many acres of forest. And even then, that wouldn't bring it to zero. It would just significantly hurt it.
Yeah, Twitter comes pre-installed on all the screens, and
you can't turn it off.
Right. Yeah.
Unless this dude you don't like is on the center of the screen all the time. Even then, somebody would just say, I'll just put a piece of paper over the screen. I'm good.
Right. Yeah. So what I hope the way, if they do this, and I just made it a case where I think they should, but I think they should still take reservations.
Yeah.
But reservations that don't have a price assigned to them.
And that's what they're doing today, which is why I was shocked by his statement. He said, right now it is to the point where it's like it is like it. So for the Cybertruck later on, they ended up just removing the price, removing any promises of what's inside. You couldn't pick your FSD price, and you were just paying $100 to get in line. Yes. And so they had then started to move in some regions and some trims. They started to move the 3, the X, the Y, the S to that same situation. And so this announcement it struck me by surprise, because what's wrong with taking all these order fees and then you're not committed to a price until their name comes up, and then do you want it, or do you want to get back in line, or do you want your $100 back?
Right. Yeah. So that's the way that I hope they do it. This will allow them to get through the backlog of orders that they have. And then when that gets down to some reasonable amount, I don't know what it is, 6-9 months, then they can invite the people based on their reservation number to place an order. And they can make their choice of the list you just said, either order it, get back in line, or say, no, I changed my mind. And then you can control how many actual orders you have that have dollar amount committed. And you can
even then you're not committing to a delivery date. So at that point they could say, oh, yes, these 10,000 people ordered the Mac Daddy, and these ones were the cheapskates. So let's, they're going to come this way. And right. not saying that any of the cars are cheap by any means, just
relative.
The jump in the line thing. And yes. It was just a shock to see that. So what I'm hoping happened is, they don't listen to Elon when he tweets. Maybe he doesn't listen to them when they do the boring businessy stuff. So maybe he didn't know that they were already doing this.
It's not like he's distracted. He doesn't do anything else, right?
Right. It's not like he gets a proper amount of sleep or is focused on any one company.
Or recently had 2 lawsuits that he was involved in and deposed for, and had to appear in court, and
happening to buy some company that doesn't seem to fit the mission.
Yeah, and he's also been playing some video game recently that he's tweeting about.
Yeah, I don't know where he finds the time to play video games amongst all the other crap he does all day long. It's like when did you do that?
he tweeted about it, and then I saw some response saying, "Oh, that's weak. You obviously don't. You're not very good at this, or something." And whatever, they're going to rag on him, but
Yeah.
he's got other stuff. He's not a 14-year-old at home with nothing else to do to kid out his character in the. So I'm glad that people like, oh, yeah. Anyway, yeah, he's got more important things to do. I'm actually happy to hear that he wasn't very good at that game.
Yeah. Like I think he would be another good example for the I'm the grown up with kids mode, or the disability, um, not the AIDS, but the disability access modes to the game, where it's like just less of the grinding, and it's like, here's the story,
Mm,
here you get to experience progression, and like if they like I love that they have the new Xbox controller where it's got the it's got a lot of different things on it, but it also accepts plugins for whatever you might need. That was pretty cool.
no.
Speaking of which, Dave B says he's got MS and Tesla with FSD beta, and it's so much safer now. More confident in my driving, and I love it. Yeah, my daughter, she's had experience with me driving maybe 2 to 3 miles since she was born, since FSD was handling all the rest of the driving for us. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Accessibility of transportation, to being able to get yourself from one place to another without being dependent on somebody else, is huge. And FSD is going to open the doors for people with disabilities, people who are so old that they shouldn't be driving and often do dangerously. So I can't wait. I think it's going to make the road safer for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one that I brought up for my next story was Tesla is suing a former employee. They do this occasionally, but this one, they claim allegedly illegally copied the secrets to the Dojo computer's cooling system. And for those that don't know, Dojo is the FSD supercomputer that's under construction and in training. Right now, they're still using the NVIDIA supercluster and all the cars to do all the training right now. But the cars would then switch over to using the Dojo system for their training whenever it's completed. And Patrick and I both do technical work, and there's a line with which you can, certain IP belongs to your employer, no matter where and how it was made. You have to stick to your agreements. And
Right. Yep. They don't own what you think.
Right.
So you can learn about it and apply learnings if you get some other job. Just because you work somewhere doesn't mean that they own you. But
Right.
but there's also just
Can't
downloading
steal
their
the
files
schematics.
and putting them on your computer. And yeah, that's way over the line. And yeah, have you seen the series Devs?
Maybe.
So it's an interesting near future program, and they have this quantum computer system that they're working on, and it's so they're already a high tech company, and then from their elite programmers, they recruit them into this devs program to work on this quantum system. And one of the character that you're following early in the show is a Russian spy who's stealing the tech, and they catch him. And I was like, wow, this life imitates art here.
Yeah.
Although he didn't just get sued. It was a little more harsh.
They caught him at the airport, though. But this isn't the first time. Like, so obviously we had the Russian guy, and then we had it started at the very beginning with Henrik Fisker stealing the blueprints for the Model S to make his Fisker Karma. And so Tesla's had this problem since day one, and I don't understand how. Didn't he settle? Which implies guilt, but again, still allegedly, yeah.
Right. Yes. Yeah. I'm just don't want you to get. Speaking of lawsuits, Kacey, I don't want you to be in one.
I appreciate it. Allegedly, this is how I understand how it happened.
There you go.
And so they've had problems with alleged leaks from the get-go. I don't understand how they still are. So, like, I mean, I love the idea that they're so trusting and free with their employees, because having a micromanager and having to step through hoops just to get your work done is a pain. But at the same time, they give you that trust and that responsibility, assuming that you will do the right thing. So if you can work from home and do whatever, doesn't mean that you can then download and share the blueprints or anything that you've signed up saying, hey, I'm not going to go make videos of FSD and share them with the public because I'm under NDA.
Mm-hmm. Well, two thoughts on this. even if Tesla open sourced everything that they did, so that
Right.
this was not even a possibility for someone to steal something because it's all just out there.
Yeah.
I don't. Their advantage is not in that IP.
Right.
It's in their pace of innovation and their culture of innovation and the engineer recruiting the efforts that they can do. So if someone else had the plans for Dojo right now, that doesn't mean that they. So the main reason you need this supercomputer is to do training for FSD, which
Right.
means it has to ingest tons of video. The clips that are sent
Terabytes for
in
my car
with
alone.
yeah, exactly. Yes. So everybody out there who's in the FSD program, whenever they tap that little send this report to Tesla, it did something wrong, or all input is error. So if it's drifting over and you correct it hard and take it out, they're gonna like, why did the driver have to do that? Let's capture that clip. Let's put it into the training. Let's put it in simulation. Let's whatever. There's um, so that it might give them step one, but you need to get to step 300 before it matters, right?
Right.
So stealing Tesla's IP there, obviously they have to protect it. I'm not saying they shouldn't, but I'm saying that if they didn't, it still wouldn't help anybody else very much anyway,
Yeah,
because there's
but
so much that has to go with that whole system.
yeah, but a place where it would make a difference though is like right now we talked last week or so where Toyota said that they were going to follow Tesla and go camera only instead of all of this
Hmm.
mumbo jumbo extra sensors. So there Toyota starting from zero, whereas if they were able to have the Tesla training program and have the sample set and then have the configuration of the of both the training computer and the car computer, that would
Yes.
allow them to catch up probably within a year or two once they get enough. They're never going to do it this way because this is Toyota, but another company could have the resources and then collect the data themselves and then get started doing like Tesla does. They they would be right on the tail. They wouldn't be leading by any means, but it would certainly significantly reduce their time to get there.
Right, which I think is a good thing. I don't.
The
Uh,
results,
you,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. I'm not saying corporate espionage is a good business practice,
But
but
saving those lives.
yes, exactly. If someone else can get bootstrapped and that gets them going faster, and that gets to something that means that somebody doesn't die, I'm for it.
Then you've got the situation where that same interview that you mentioned earlier. If Tesla was able to license it out, that would help everybody out because then they've got a guarantee. They don't have to do anything but turn the key and give Tesla money, and then Tesla can use that money to improve their product for everybody else, and then everybody is able to benefit from that safety uh, without. And they are a business. They need to make money to continue to do what they do.
Right.
Yeah,
And certainly a lot of car companies are used to working with suppliers for products like that. But it's different if the company is in direct competition.
there
So
is.
there's a co-opetition is a saying in the industry where you have to cooperate with your competitors, and it's someone like Toyota is not going to license FSD from Tesla. It's just not going to happen. Maybe some startup would, or other companies that aren't already a big automaker. That a big automaker is going to want to have their own thing that they can brand their way, and even if that means they're buying it from a supplier, that's okay. But buying it from a competitor, not going to happen.
Which is why we have the likes of Denso and AC Delco, right? Because it was a little easier
Yes,
to buy from the sub brand of your competitor without their name showing up under your hood than it was
right.
to.
Yes, Hockey Day and I agree that other car companies are not going to pay Tesla a dime. Not the big companies anyway.
Yeah. And then Hackaday points out that he can do on his own time can create like a video game because that's not the company what his day job does. Same with me with the YouTube. If I was working for a media company, they might try and silence me. But since we do computer stuff, and I don't do anywhere near the same kind of computer stuff if I touch computers at all, there's no conflict of interest. I've even declared it every time I do an onboarding, change jobs. I'm like, hey, this is what I do. They're like, that's not a conflict of interest. I'm like, oh, thanks for writing that down.
Yes, and that's the way to do it. Is
Yeah,
exactly like you are. You disclose that to them, and you say, "This is what I'm doing. This is some other interest I pursue." and don't try to sneak it past them, or because it's not just if you have a conflict of interest, if there is the appearance of a conflict of interest, and if you were trying to hide something, then that could look bad even if it isn't. So if you want to do some extracurricular stuff and you have an employer, um, let them know, hey, this is what I'm going to do, and here's uh, how I guarantee it's not going to have a conflict of interest with your products or technologies.
Exactly. And then David brings up a really good example of this in action. The Russians stole our shuttle, but the Buran never flew. I think it had maybe one test flight as a glide or something, and that was it. It rusted.
Right. Yeah. Just getting the plans is only step one of 300. Yep.
Oh, there you go. Hackaday said it flew once unmanned, but I don't think it went to space. It was like it was all atmospheric, right?
Hmm.
I don't remember, but either way, one time that was it. then it became a rusty mess. There was one other tweet in there. Do we want to share the superchargers? That was a topic we didn't pick up. We did talk about last week how they put cameras on a few of the trial stations in Europe to see how the sharing is going on and how smoothly everything is working out. And then there's rumors now that they're getting ready to put CCS connectors on the American superchargers. We'll see how that plays out. I have a feeling that they're going to tread lightly, and it probably won't start in California. But if you go to other places like where I am, or sometimes Patrick's place, there's not always a competition if it's not the middle of a holiday travel season.
Right. Yeah. So I've traveled up and down the West Coast using superchargers, and LA was a pain. But anywhere San Francisco or north, I've never had a problem. I take it back. I did have to wait at Mount Shasta. So it's right on I-5 at the top of a mountain, and they only had 4 stations at the time. I think they have 6 now. So it still could be 12, but for the most part, I don't use the superchargers all that much. I charge up in my garage. I drive around my neighborhood, and I don't need it. So I think it's a good thing for Tesla to do that. It helps make their network more valuable. It'll improve the utilization. That will give them more revenue, which will allow them to install more chargers. And because those are Tesla branded, they've got skin in the game. Whereas other charge network companies are getting government subsidies, or were required to do it because of a lawsuit, and they have obligations to put so many in the ground, and then they don't care about maintaining them. They don't care about their uptime. If they're blocked or whatever, you call them, they don't care. So Tesla, one of the main reasons I got a Tesla is because I had such a bad experience with the charging networks with the other vehicles, and if it's Nissan doesn't have their own charging network, so you're instead at some third-party network. They have nothing to do with that. They can't really influence them. They don't have a seat on their board. They don't have any uptime requirements for them. So the one of the smart things that Tesla did, and I think it's one of their biggest moats, is the charging network. And I think they're actually going to end up being good advertising for their vehicles, because if you have a non-Tesla but you're charging a Tesla network, you're going to see a lot of Tesla vehicles. You're going to say, wow, these guys are doing it right. They've got what feature? Because I mean, a lot of these, I've called this time that we spend here our supercharger chat, because that's Tesla owners talk to each other at the superchargers. So now it's going to be all EV owners, and there will be a lot of us enthusiastic Tesla owners saying, yeah, I had a vehicle like yours, but I didn't like the range limitation. I didn't like the slow charging speed, or whatever it is. And this one's just so much better. So it's going to be good advertising for Tesla.
Yeah, absolutely, exactly like that. I think that the same thing for me with the waiting. I've had to wait twice now. There was the one where I cut the line, and and there was another one where we were returning from a hurricane evacuation. We evacuated to Florida to go to evacuate for a hurricane. Going down was no problem. Everybody was already spaced out, leaving after work, doing whatever. But coming back, everybody's like, I want to be back at work on Monday. And and so at that point was also the same situation. A cabinet was down, and my wait time was like 6 minutes. And it probably would have been better if the person who was blocking us had actually been closer to their car, because they had been done for the whole 6 minutes. So maybe they were just slow walker or something. I don't know.
They were getting idle fees, huh?
This is before idle fees came out.
Okay.
They did the right thing. They weren't just hamming it up in the airport, but if they had been around the car, like so that when it moved, like because it pushed everybody back. Like after we were done, there was still one person waiting, but while we were charging, it got to be about 5 people deep because we were missing 2 chargers because the cabinet was down. And then Hockey Days asks, what if they spun off the superchargers?
So Tesla's known for vertically integrating, so this would be opposite of that. Yeah. It doesn't mean they couldn't do it, but I think that is a weaker message, right? So I mean, I just talked about how because they're Tesla owned and Tesla has skin in the game, that's going to this helps them sell their vehicles. So
right.
It's
because Volkswagen's got skin in the game too, but very few people realize that Electrify America is Volkswagen. It's right. Too far arm's length.
Yeah, and it's not like Volkswagen is doing that for the right reasons. They're doing it because they were required to.
Exactly.
By law. Yeah. And Volkswagen's already tried to sell Electrify America.
Oh wow!
So they've met the requirements that the courts had, and they've put it up for sale. I don't think anybody's taken them up on the offer.
Shell buys it,
but yeah, right. I wouldn't be surprised, and if some Exxon or BP or Shell or whoever bought it because they want to sell you energy for your vehicle.
If it's their paradigm, you got to go to a place to get energy. So and they would love for you to have to wait around because then their convenience stores can sell more too. Dave, I'm not sure I understand the question. Do you get it, Patrick? Volkswagen made sure it didn't really work that often. Absolutely, Hockey Day. It's like they did the bare minimums and then kept on trucking.
Right, because that's what was required of them by law. They're meeting that, and any network out there should have uptime requirements with penalties, and then right now the only penalty is they lose a few dollars that they could have collected from that if someone were to use it that day. But if instead, like idle fees, that would, if we're going to have infrastructure that we depend on for personal transportation, it has to have 99% uptime. And if you have a station that's below that, you're penalized. And you don't want to make it so that no business wants to touch it, but you also want to. So I don't know what the right balance there is. But you have to do something that uptime is a requirement.
Yeah, like I touched on this on Sunday on my show. We talked about how many sessions Electrify America had, was something like 250 million sessions or something like that. And then we talked about how many phone calls they had for customer support, 142 million sessions. So like literally 60% of their sessions ended in a customer support call.
Right. And
that's not good.
That was very much my experience. There were a lot of stations I would go to where it's not even on. And then you try to power it on and the screen's blank. And so it has a 1-800 number there. You call them, they go, okay, yeah, we'll remote reset it. And then, 30 seconds later, that's on after waiting 4 minutes on hold or whatever. And then, so even when there was no wait, there was still a wait. And then you've got to, tap your fob or open their app or do whatever. Yeah, it was such a hassle and unreliable and just not convenient. And it's like, okay, this is going to guarantee that gas cars continue to get sold for a while. And because only early adopters will put up with this crap. We need to move past that. We need to have the plug and charge where your car is a member of the network. You plug it in, it tells them whatever ID information they need to do proper billing to an account that you already have set up. And that's what Tesla does. You don't swipe a credit card every time you go to a supercharger. It knows
exactly,
and that's how it should be.
Yeah. So Dave clarified the Custer, South Dakota Tesla rally. I'm going probably to a couple of outdoor events, maybe up to a state away, but I'm not really out and about yet. Still, because my baby has no shots, and she has a vitamin D shot and whatever they give you at birth. So not enough.
Right. There's a pandemic and you have a newborn. So, I'm not sure which is going to happen first. Your child will turn 6 and get vaccinated, or the pandemic will end. Both? I'm hoping it's the second one, but the pandemic ends and we can start doing things more socially, that would be nice.
Definitely. So we have another story coming up about EV registrations have surged 60% in the U.S. for Q1 2022, with Tesla leading the way. That one's you, right?
Yes.
Tell us
Yeah.
about it.
So yeah, this is from Drive Tesla Canada, and you can tell that it's not written in the US because percent is 2 words.
Oh,
In
nice.
the US here it's 1 word. In the UK or Canada, apparently they like to make it 2 words.
Yeah.
And yeah, I can see how it started that way. But anyway,
I agree, David. David says all chargers, supercharger and otherwise, should have camera surveillance coverage. Absolutely.
yes. And that way you can ticket people who are icing them. And
Yeah.
that's actually how it should be.
Spot copper thieves and vandals.
Right. Yes. Although the first thing they'll do is destroy the cameras, but well, some criminals are not that smart, though.
A lot are not that smart.
Yeah.
So 60% with a space.
Yes. So a 60% surge. So the headlines like this are a little clickbaity. A 60% surge does not mean that it's 60% of new vehicles or anything. It's starting from a relatively small amount. It's up 60%. EV registration surged to 100, and I'll just round 159,000 total vehicles for the first 3 months of the year. Overall, this means 4.6% of the light vehicle
Still
registrations
great.
in the U.S. were EVs.
Remember
so
we were hoping.
4.6.
Yeah, remember we were hoping that hybrids would hit 2%. 4.6%.
Yes.
Boom,
Yes.
baby.
Right. Yes, we have punched through the hybrid ceiling and on our way. And I can't wait for this. Once we get to 18 or 20%, that's when the hockey stick starts going, and you quickly go from 20% to like 60%. The real 60% of not just the
60% overall.
Right? Yes,
Not improvement.
Yes, right. That's when you get on the S curve and start riding the steep part of it up.
Yes.
So it took a long time to get to 1%. Now we're at 4.5%. So 10%, then we hit 20%, and then boom, it's just going to be like everybody you know who's buying a car is going to be buying an EV.
All right, and that's all cars. What about Tesla?
Where's go ahead. If you found that in there.
Oh, I thought you were going into that. So Tesla's at 65% of that 4.6%. At let's see, what was it? 59% increase in sales with 113,882 cars for just Q1, which is supposed to be a weak quarter. Instead, it was an all-time high for Tesla.
Right. Yeah, with gas prices shooting up, there's a whole lot of people that are interested in EVs, and I think everybody, obviously the people watching this now are obviously EV aware and probably Tesla drivers, most of them already. But we should electrify all the things.
Yes.
So if your furnace goes out, if you should be replacing that with a heat pump. If your stove oven goes out, you should be replacing that with an induction cooktop. And if
water
your
heater,
car
dryer.
is old, yes. So electrify all the things, and we have to start doing that now, and because a lot of these things have a long lifespan, and 5 years from now, if you're still using fossil fuels to power them, the prices are going to be unstable and jumping all over the place. We've seen that happen already, and take every opportunity you can to electrify your utilities, your transportation, and then it's a lot easier to get renewable energy to power that. And with a gas car, you have to use gasoline. With the natural gas appliance, you have to use fossil methane. I'm not going to call it natural gas. So yeah, this is just great propane, to see.
Yeah. But once you switch all those things out for heat pumps and electrics and resistive heat, you can bring about a future
that is free from fossil fuels. That's where we want to get to, baby.
Yes. So the next two stories we've got coming up. This one is actually tweeted by either Mark or Patrick over on the Tesla Life, which you can find over at the Tesla Life on Twitter.
All one word.
All one word. The Tesla Life on Twitter, like this. So drivers using the Tesla Autopilot are 8 times less likely to be involved in an accident, states the 2021 impact report, which will be our next story is a 2021 impact report.
Wait, it's a lack of impact report. Casey.
In this
You
in
just
this
said they don't get in crashes.
in this particular case, yes. In fact, of the FSD beta crashes I've heard of, uh, the two of them were cases where the car was struck by somebody else. So the first one was a motorcycle whose wheel fell off. He struck the back of a Model S and unfortunately lost his life. And then the next one was a Camry that was running a red light, and it was running it so fast that the car computer didn't see it, couldn't comprehend that anybody would be this foolish, and then it got tagged. I'm guessing there was probably also a visual obstruction as well, because the car is really good about, even if you're manually hammering the pedal, it's really good about cutting that lightning pedal back and letting you watch that car come right by where you were going to be. So there had to have been multiple factors in this to allow that car on FSD to get hit by the speeding red light running Camry. It's probably
Yeah,
also a really stale red light. Go ahead.
I just had a couple experiences with FSD that I thought would be interesting to share. The first one, there was a dead squirrel in the road,
Oh
and
wow.
it went around it.
Yeah, I like it when it does
It
that rather than making
Yeah,
roadkill.
right. There was room to go around it safely, and it did. I don't know if it thought it was a live squirrel or what, but so that was interesting. And then the next one, there was a biker in the bike lane, and it scooted over closer to the oncoming traffic to give the biker more room, and it got a little too close to the oncoming traffic for my concern. I was like, but I was looking, it saw the lanes, everything was fine, and it slowed down. Which I've passed bicycles before, and it didn't do all these things. Um, and it's not like that person was even like, they were dead center of the bike lane. They weren't like super close to the traffic. So I'm not sure why it decided to give them extra room that time.
Every time it sees a Schwinn, somebody veers to the left.
Right. Yes. Oh, it's that biker. He's not stable. Give him extra room. It knows Joe on his Schwinn is not stable.
I've seen it do that where certain car brands, but like models, like where they're typically not the strongest drivers, it tends to give them a little more caution. I'm like, oh wow, like usually like missing a taillight or something. It's like, oh, I would have done the same thing. Good job.
That is it's being trained by humans, so it might take in some of their biases.
Yeah.
Very interesting. I hadn't thought about that. I assumed it wouldn't do that sort of stuff, but we've seen that with AI training models. It sometimes for the worst copies the
Yeah.
humans, that because it was in the training data, and
Yeah.
so that's what they emulate. And yeah.
I did something fun today. We were going to lunch, and the left turn lane was backed out into the drive lane, and the right lane was being numbskulls, and it was too full. And so my car decided it was not going to hang that right turn lane. It went to the inside right turn lane instead. But there was a truck hanging out into my lane. It was going to wait, and I just tapped the pedal, saying, "All right, go ahead." And it went over, like it didn't have to fold the mirrors, but it went way over to the right, and then went around the truck and recentered itself. And I was like, wow, that was probably how I would have done it, but like it was smooth. And this thing is learning, and it's fast.
Yeah, that's when you know it's coming. When you're like, oh wow, that's exactly what I would have done. That's when you know it's getting it right. Yeah, cool.
Yeah. David says the other piece is making long-lasting appliances and HVAC systems. Yeah, because building something afresh is, it's still going to take more impact on the planet than making something that exists work.
Yes.
Especially if they're similar fuel impact. But when we look at like EVs versus fossils, you've got a similar impact on construction. It's not to the EV's favor on construction, but then it makes up for it in spades on fuel and maintenance. Speaking of which, in the impact report, we determined that I always said, hey, if you're going to keep your car for less than 2 years, or not less than 2 years, less than 2 oil changes, then it's okay to get a fossil. But if you're going to keep it anything longer than two oil changes, you should probably get an EV. Well, for Tesla now, that is actually within the first oil change. So just get a Tesla. Yeah. That was in the impact report. I don't know where in it, but I remember seeing that one as people were picking it apart, and that was really cool. Another. Yeah.
And that makes sense. As you get to economies of scale, a lot of that stuff is amortized over larger, so your effective footprint is going to be smaller. That's cool.
Exactly. Another thing that came up, I'm just going to share the screen on this one because it was so cool. The Tesla Energy department is putting in more energy than the Tesla factories and every Tesla automobile is drawing from the grid. So they put in 25.39 terawatt hours, and they took out 25.27 terawatt hours. So if somebody says, "Oh, well, you're supercharging in West Virginia and they run on coal," so
Right.
I'm net negative here, baby.
Yes. Yeah. So the solar panels that we have make enough for us to drive about 30,000 miles a year. And collectively, our two vehicles probably drive less than 15,000
Right,
miles. So yeah, we're um, certainly for our vehicles double negative. I mean,
right, and that's only counting Tesla energy installations. So somebody like me
right.
who doesn't have, I don't have Tesla's panels, I don't have Solar City panels, and my power walls aren't yet delivered. Um, they don't know about what I'm doing, so they're just assuming
Hmm.
I'm burning a combo of nuclear and coal based on where that house is, and
Hmm.
they're wrong. So it's even
Right.
better than they said, because
Right.
I would be in that blue bar with them anyway, which is really cool. Yeah,
Yeah, and if you take a random Tesla owner, I'd say it's a fair bet that they're far more likely to have solar than your average pickup driver.
yeah. And they went through a lot of really cool stuff. Like they talked about how they went through and they've got Tesla Energy, Tesla Storage, Tesla software like AutoBidder and FSD and all the stuff in the car, down to the Tesla battery cells. So they've got the complete cycle. And not only that, they're recycling packs. Not that too many of them are coming out of the car, because later on they pointed out that the packs outlast the cars.
Right. Yeah, a friend of mine is interested in getting an EV, and that was one of her questions is, are the batteries recycled? And there's not a lot of battery recycling right now, but because there's not a lot that have gone
Well,
through that phase in their
there's
life,
not
but
there's
there's
not a lot
certainly
of finished pack recycling, but anything that fails quality inspection, anything that was in a crash test, those are getting recycled today.
right. Yes.
Yeah,
So my answer was absolutely this stuff is being recycled, and there are several startups working on recycling. It's going to become a major source of the metals and minerals that they need to make the next generation of vehicles. That's not going to be going into landfills. Batteries are one of the most recycled things that we have, um, uh, especially if you look at like lead acid batteries with the trade-in. So EV batteries have value even after their life, and so they're not going to just end up in a landfill, and
exactly.
that's great. Yeah.
Previously, Elon has stated that the a completely dead pack that can't accept one new electron, it won't open the contactors, anything, uh, is worth $9,000. Just a completely dead hunk of metal and gels. So imagine, that what typically will happen, even in a wrecked car, is the battery will still hold some charge, no matter how bad you beat this thing to pieces, uh, assuming that you didn't also light it on fire. Um, so who's going to let that $9,000 plus? Because it's generally going to be plus in the ten to
Hmm.
$15,000 range. Who's going to throw $15,000 in the landfill and just let it sit when they could sell it to a recycler, or sell it to a grid storage, or somebody who could actually make use of it? And
Right. Yeah, the second life for batteries is an interesting idea because their first life is mobile and harsh, where
yes,
I mean every acceleration and brake is a big discharge or charge. But as backup energy, that it's you can use it at half the C rating that they would have as an electric vehicle. You can do slow charges and discharges, and it can be a retirement life. And then after that, then you recycle it. So yeah, reuse is definitely is it's reduce, reuse, recycle, right? So
exactly.
reuse and then recycle.
It's kind of like my computers. They get run hard, like what they were built for. I run them for gaming, run them for video editing, and then when I'm done with them, I retire them to a friend or family member who's just a regular computer user. Like they may dabble. So it's like they had this really hard life, and then they just go out to the farm and they retire.
Right? Yeah, I do email now. Life's easy. I don't
Yes.
have to crunch these massive video files anymore.
Yes.
Yeah.
The global recordable injuries per 1,000 cars for 2021 was just 2.9 per 1,000 cars they built. I'm not sure if that was from the inside the factory or in crashes. It looks like it's inside the factory.
Yeah, in fact, Tesla said they're going to change the method that they use for reporting this to one that's more accurate. And it actually, the more accurate one made them look a little worse.
Oh yes.
But if that's what they think is the best way to report it for accuracy, that's what they're going to do, and that is really cool.
Right, and I like the fact that they focus more on accuracy rather than the feel good advertising stuff.
Yeah.
So here they were talking about the emissions, and so they compare the average fossil car versus a Model 3 and Y with personal or grid personal use for grid charge versus solar and rideshare. So they're even like looking at not just robotaxi, because that's not out right now, but they're looking at people using it for Uber and Lyft, and looking at it with a grid and solar. And like, this impact report is 144 pages of awesomeness.
I don't think we have time to cover all of that. In fact, we're at the end of our hour.
We are. Oh snap! We just went over it. So why don't we do the closing there, Patrick?
Okay, I'll start it. I'm with the Oregon Electric Vehicle Association. You can find us at oeva.org, and I blog occasionally. And thanks for checking out one of my articles today on the show. And of course, I am here because I want to see a future free from fossil fuels. Take it away, Kacey.
If you haven't already hit the like button, give it a like. And down here, hit that subscribe button. If it's red, it should be gray or black. And you can find us online. We showed you on Twitter at the Tesla Life, all one word. And what is it on Facebook? I don't do the Facebook that much.
Yeah, it's the Tesla Life show. I think I'd have to look.
The Tesla Life numeral 1.
Oh, there you go. Yes, yeah.
Okay,
you're right.
There we go. I remember numeral 1. You can find me online at youtube.com/Kacey Green. I do a show similar to this, but very, very long on Sundays. People pop in and out, both not just the viewers, but the hosts pop in and out as well because it's so long. We went a little out of control this week and got to 7 hours. Almost hit the maximum record limit on the software. Yeah.
Wow.
Yes. And then I also do
for a little while.
Right, yeah,
no more talking. Yeah,
it was cool. Pop in and out. Everybody pops in and out. And so then I also do some pre-recorded shows. So on, I've got one.
Did we lose Kacey? Well, it still says it's live and recording, and I can't stop it. So here we are. Without Mark, I didn't plan on doing a one-person podcast here. So, well, all right. I don't have another article planned either, so I don't even know how to. Hopefully, Kacey will pop back in and put me out of my misery here. So next week, Mark Colgan should be back, so you'll be able to have Mark running this show again, hopefully without this kind of. Oh, there we go. Kacey's back.
Yeah. So I don't know. My computer just quit on me. It's like, yeah, we've had enough of you talking. But
so try not to let dead air in.
Right. No, that's the way to do it. So as I was saying, I've got a video coming out on the lithium-ion conversion, aftermarket conversion for the Tesla starter battery, and then I've also got an FSD video coming out before Elon manages to release the next version. I managed to get a little bit behind sometimes, but this one is as typical as the FSD in the rain. Those seem to be fun, and that should be coming hopefully before FSD updates for us. All right.
Cool.
And then, oh man, my music. I had music from Lee Moon all lined up.
Oh, but you just had to reboot or whatever there. Yeah. So thank you,
the
Lee
browser
Moon,
just crashed on me
for our intro, outro music.
Absolutely.
Lee's one of our community here and shared this with us. And
that's right, David. But tune in next week and find out what's happening in the Tesla life, and we'll catch you on the flip side.
Stay positive, test negative.